members of the Senate and guests, Ronald Reagan, in his inaugural address in 1981, said, quote, "We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time where there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look." Members of the Senate and guests, look no further than the man standing to my left, Colonel Charles P. Murray. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask the reading clerk to read his bio. He'll be recognized this fall at the Congressional Medal of Honor Convention in Charleston. But let me tell you about this man, a little bit about this man, and we could stand here all day. Colonel Murray just got back from a trip, and you all read the article I sent you last week, to Salzburg, Austria, where he helped mark the occasion of the 65th anniversary of World War II. And he can remember the day he got the message like it was yesterday, and he spoke about that in this article. He was 23 years old at that time, and his acts of courage obviously allowed him to be awarded, very justifiably so, the Congressional Medal of Honor. And since he's returned back to the Midlands, I can tell you that there's never been a military event in the Midlands that I've attended that Colonel Murray hasn't been there. There might be 10 people there, but Colonel Charles P. Murray is always there to salute the men and women in our armed forces. Recently, the American Legion Post, the one we all know on Pickens Street, was named in his honor. Of course, there's a middle school back in Wilmington, North Carolina, his hometown, that's also named in his honor. He's joined here today by his wife of 67 years, Ms. Ann Murray. Ms. Murray, just raise your hand. And, of course, and a dear friend of ours, Brigadier General Gene Rogers, and his wife, who's no stranger, Elsie Rass Stewart Rogers, who are also here to help celebrate this occasion. Members and guests, there are 91 living recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, and we are in awe today. We are honored to have in our presence one of them, truly a great American hero. Tom Brokaw talks about the greatest generation in his book, and to have this man standing right in front of us is truly one of the greatest honors that I think I'll ever enjoy as a state senator. If I would ask now, I'm going to deviate a little bit from our normal process, and as opposed to reading the resolution, Colonel, that we passed unanimously in your honor, I'm going to ask the reading clerk to read your bio, which will be printed up in the convention, for the convention this September. Read your bio that all members of the public will be able to see as well. Mr. Reading Clerk.
Reading Clerk will read.
Colonel Charles P. Murray, Jr., U.S. Army retired, received the Medal of Honor for commanding Company C, 30th Infantry, displaying supreme courage and heroic initiative near Kaisersburg, France on December 16, 1944, while leading a reinforced platoon into enemy territory. Descending into a valley beneath hilltop positions held by our troops, he observed a force of 200 Germans pouring deadly mortar, bazooka, machine gun, and small arms fire into an American battalion occupying the crest of the ridge. The enemy's position in a sunken road, though hidden from the ridge, was open to a flank attack by First Lieutenant Murray's patrol, but he hesitated to commit so small a force to battle with the superior and strongly disposed enemy. Crawling out ahead of his troops to a vantage point, he called by radio for artillery fire. His shells bracketed the Germans, but when he was about to correct the range, his radio went dead. He returned to his patrol, securing grenades and a rifle to launch them, and went back to his self-appointed outpost. His first shots disclosed his position. The enemy directed heavy fire against him as he methodically fired his missiles into the narrow defile. Again, he returned to his patrol. With an automatic rifle and ammunition, he once more moved to his exposed position. Burst after burst, he fired into the enemy, killing 20, wounding many others, and completely disorganizing its ranks, which began to withdraw. He prevented the removal of 3 German mortars by knocking out a truck. By that time, a mortar had been brought to his support. First Lieutenant Murray directed fire of this weapon, causing further casualties and confusions in the German ranks. Calling on his patrol to follow, he then moved out towards his original objective, possession of a bridge and construction of a roadblock. He captured 10 Germans in a foxhole, an 11th while pretending to surrender through a grenade which knocked him to the ground, inflicting 8 wounds. Though suffering and bleeding profusely, he refused to return to the rear until he had chosen the spot for the block and had seen his men correctly deployed. By his single-handed attack on an overwhelming force and by his intrepid and heroic fighting, First Lieutenant Murray stopped a counterattack, established an advanced position against formidable odds, and provided an inspiring example for men of his command.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, members, please join me in welcoming one very tough soldier, one of the most kindest men you'll ever meet on the face of the earth, and an American hero, Colonel Charles P. Murray. Mr. President, it's an honor on behalf of the entire State Senate to present Colonel Murray this Senate resolution thanking him for his service and for all he has done for the citizens of not only South Carolina, but for making this such a great country. Colonel, words cannot express our appreciation. You have our deepest gratitude and thanks, and just thank you for honoring us with your presence today as well. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Senator from Lexington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colonel, I've known you for a long time, and everything that's been said here today is not enough to be said about you and your service. You have been a great inspiration to many young veterans and the veterans' families throughout this state and throughout this nation. And I know whenever we honor our fallen soldiers each year, you have always been very, very helpful in that. And it helps to have someone of your character and your standings to be able to cope, help the families cope with their problems. Because, you know, without our veterans and without our soldiers that are dying for this country, we wouldn't be free today, and thank you for helping us be free today.